make a clip out of this. I like to be as detailed as possible, right?
Okay.
So we'll go back to David Avenesian. So Terence Crawford pulls out of negotiations with Earl Spence and looks to fight David Avenesian in Omaha. At that particular time, all the welterweights were standing pat to wait and see what they would do. And when Crawford pulled out of negotiations, that's when everybody made their move, right? Virgil Ortiz went after Amanda Stanionis in the WBA regular. Jaron Ennis went after Earl Spence. And they put in a petition to face Earl Spence for them to order the mandatory.
Real quick. Is this why Terence Crawford said in that $1 million worth of game interview,
yes.
like why you the WBO rankings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the reality was the only reason why he went the IBF route is because you chose a voluntary in David Avenesian. Terence Crawford wasn't due to have a mandatory until that following May. You know, the WBO mandatory, they do every 18 months because he's a super champion. So they do every 18 months. So the mandatory wasn't even due. But the IBF mandatory was due. So Spence is available. You're not in negotiations. You fight Avenesian. Let me go after Spence. I'm the highest ranked contender in the IBF. They petition. The IBF has a rule that states the two highest ranked contenders must fight for an eliminator to become the mandatory. So for the purpose of Spence facing Crawford in the undisputed, the IBF made it for the interim. The interim the interim champion can only hold the interim title for a year. After a year, they're either awarded the belt or the actual champion has to face them. And that's exactly what you end up seeing. But so he faces Kareem Chikazin, beats him, becomes the IBF interim, and he's removed from all the rankings of the other sanctioning bodies. Right. So around this time, now for disclosure purposes, I have a relationship with BLK and I had a relationship with Boots and his side. So I'm not just having a conversation just with one side. Mm-hmm. All right. So it was told to me that they were looking to make Terence Crawford versus Manny Pacquiao. And Blue Blood suggested Boots. They reach out to Bozy. Bozy says he's interested. But the conversation kind of started steering towards, you know, them signing Boots. You know, oh, when's your contract up with Showtime and this and that. Bozy really wasn't with that. He wants to stay on Showtime. So he's like, look, you know, we can make this happen. Like, I want this fight. You get on the phone with Steven Espinosa, y'all make the fight happen. Which they did. Now, during the course of these negotiations, Espinosa keeps asking, well, first let me start. Espinosa didn't want it on BLK Prime. He's like, no, you know, we're going to do it on Showtime. And then they started discussing dates. And mind you, Showtime already had a lot of dates. You know, they had Caleb Plant and all the dates early. So he was saying the earliest he could do it, I think June or July, which around the time that Spence versus Crawford even ended up happening. But during the course of these negotiations, Espinosa kept asking, well, do you have Crawford under contract? Do you have Crawford under contract? They didn't. So after they got off the phone, Espinosa ends up hitting up Crawford and asks him, you know, well, Boots, is that the route you want to go? Because mind you, they had already been having Spence talks. Crawford was under the perception that Spence could possibly face Thurman. He wanted a bout in the interim. He didn't want to wait. He wanted to stay active. And that's why you saw him having talks with Golden Boy with the Alexis Roca fight. And during the talks with Espinosa, he realized, well, Spence isn't going to face Thurman. And then you get Spence versus Crawford. So the narrative that Bozy turned down the BLK, no, he just wanted his people, who he was loyal to negotiate the deal for him. That's the context. The context isn't, oh, no, you know, he turned down, no, I'm loyal to Showtime. I don't want to talk. No, I'm going to have my people, talk to you about making this deal, but I want this. But I'm not just going to go ahead and negotiate with you without my people.
Right.
So yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. That's all I wanted to get out there. You know what I'm saying? Because there's been a lot of people just running with narratives that I knew weren't true. You know what I mean? I had heard the whole story behind what you were saying, and it sounded a lot more accurate than what everybody else was saying. And like I said, I know you got a relationship with both sides, so I figured that I'll come straight to the source and just have you explain. I know you drained from explaining it, so I appreciate you coming on here and explaining it just one more time, and hopefully you won't do that again.
Mark, real fast, right? And this is what I want people to really, really think about. So you're saying that Terence Crawford was going to face Jaron Ennis instead of facing Earl Spence. See, a lot of people mistake the dates. They think this was for the David Avanesian fight, but no. They called Bozy Ennis in January after the Avanesian fight. So you're telling me that Crawford was going to be like, nah, man, fuck the big payday, fuck undisputed. I'm going to face Boots instead of Spence. That doesn't make sense. And he's on record saying that he wanted the Spence fight and that in January he hit up Spence. So is it more plausible that he was going to say fuck Spence and face Boots? Even now he's telling you that it's not worth money. You know, he doesn't get anything out of it. As opposed to the fight that was worth money and that he was going to get something out of it. Y'all gotta I know y'all Terence Crawford fans and y'all want to paint this picture that everybody's afraid, but that's not boxing. Everybody's not afraid of Boots. It just comes down to business. And what made business sense, and just like what makes business sense for Crawford now to face Spence, it makes business sense for Crawford right now to avoid Boots.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. So right before you go, man, so